Hello, beautiful people. This is Mrs. M, and this is about the 8th time I've tried to record this, so hopefully this will work. This is the Verbals Part 2 flip lesson. It is a continuation of Monday's flip lesson that we are trying to figure out. We want to make sure we can identify all three kinds of verbals and also be able to write them. So let's take a look real quick. In last flip lesson, we had the Prezi that introduced the three kinds of verbals. You had participles, gerunds, and infinitives. We know that infinitives are going to be a verb with the word to in front of it. That's your clue, that's your hint. To run, to dance, to read, to scream, to buy, to walk. Okay, they all have the word to in front of it. That is your clue. If I put a sentence up on the board and I underline a phrase and ask you to identify what kind of verbal it is, the first thing I would look for is the word to. Because if it's not there, I can cross it off. There will be a point in time in your life where somebody will tell you that you don't need it. That's great. For our class, you need it. We also know that infinitives can function in three different ways. They can function as nouns, adjectives, and adverbs, so keep that in mind. We talked about gerunds, and gerunds are those verbs that end in ing, but they're going to be used as nouns. So they may come at the beginning of the sentence, they may come in the middle of the sentence. You don't know where it's going to show up, but if I underline a phrase within a sentence, first thing you're going to look for is that ing word, right? So swimming, running, dancing, laughing, crying, debating. They're all gerunds when they are used as nouns. Okay, so we got swimming, running, dancing. I'm looking for that ing, so that's one of my clues. We also reviewed participles, and again, participles can end in ing just like those gerunds can, but they can also be in the past tense, and they were all going to describe a noun, so they are adjectives. That's what we're looking for there. The other cool thing about participles is most of the time you can take it out of the sentence, and it doesn't change the meaning of the sentence at all. Just like most adjectives, you don't really need them, but they add and give description to a sentence, so that's what you're looking for there. So let's look here at our first verbal question. We know this is infinitive because I wrote it right up there, so that's what I know it is. But let's prove it. Let's figure it out. To be loved and to stay cool is all this bulldog wants. To love and to stay cool. That's the underlined part. Again, I told you earlier, if it's an infinitive, it's going to have to in it. To be, to stay. Right there, I know it's an infinitive. I haven't asked you how it's functioning in the sentence. I just want to be able to identify them at this point. All right? In case you're wondering, is your verb, and it actually is a linking verb here. This is all the subject of the sentence. It's working as a noun. That whole phrase is working as a noun. Gerunds, again, I'm telling you, this is a gerund, surprise, okay? Dancing in a pink tutu doesn't make Poncho happy. We have, this is the underlined portion. And how can we tell whether it's a gerund or a participle? So, because both of them, look at right there, ing. All right, so we've got the word dancing and ing is on the end. Well, we know that participles and gerunds can end in ing. So now we have to figure out, this is where we have to figure out what it's doing in the sentence. So in this case, this entire phrase, first thing, can I take it out of the sentence and it makes sense? If I took the whole thing out and I just crossed it out, can I say, doesn't make Poncho happy? Does that make sense? Absolutely not. So, right there I know it's probably not going to be a participle. So then I have to figure out what is it doing in the sentence. Well, the verb is doesn't make. Okay, that's my verb. Well, what doesn't make Poncho happy? Dancing in a pink tutu doesn't make him. So this is a subject. Subjects are going to be nouns or pronouns. All right, so this is a noun. It is a gerund. We have then our participles. Okay, participles, couple things to look for. One, you're looking for ing. That's the first thing I would look for. The other one is you're looking for an ed or the past tense form of the verb. Right? Okay, so we also know that it works as an adjective. And guess what? We can take it out. Most likely, we can take that whole phrase out of the sentence and it will still make sense. So let's look at it. Waiting patiently in the hallway, Francesca and Sophia, two wrinkled Neapolitan mastiffs, are ready for their close-up. We already know these are participles because I already told you, but let's prove it. Waiting patiently in the hallway, Francesca and Sophia. Okay, waiting patiently in the hallway. Well, I've got an ing here in the first word. That's looks like a verb, but it's an ing. And so, who is waiting patiently in the hallway? Well, Gee, Francesca and Sophia. All right, so if it's describing a noun, it's going to be an adjective. So right there, I know it's not a gerund. Okay. The other thing I can do is I can take that phrase out of the sentence. If I just said Francesca and Sophia, two wrinkled Neapolitan Mastiffs, are ready for their close-up, makes perfect sense. So if I can take it out, it makes sense. It's a participle. Okay. So then let's look at the second one. It does not have to. All right. It doesn't have to. So I'm going to knock off the whole idea of it being an infinitive. And there's no ing, and that's a requirement for a gerund. So just by process of elimination, I know that wrinkled is going to be a participle. Okay, again, I can also take it out, two Neapolitan Mastiffs, and that's absolutely fine. And so it tells me I have a participle there. Okay, so let's practice. I think hopefully you'll be able to identify those if you use those tips. Infinitive, got to have the to in front of it. Gerund has to have an ing. Won't most likely be able to take it out of the sentence and the sentence still makes sense, and it functions as a noun. And then the participle, you can take it out of the sentence. It could be ing, it could be ed or past tense, but you can take it out of the sentence and the sentence will still make sense. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and add a verbal to the sentence, a given kind of verbal. So in this case, the instruction says to add a participle or a participial phrase on the line. So, something the Old English Sheepdog won a blue ribbon as proof. All right, so that stands by itself okay. So we're going to add a participial phrase on the line. So, assured of his victory, the Old English Sheepdog won a blue ribbon as proof. All right? So here we go. Here's a phrase. I look at the first word. It doesn't have no to in there. Ing, nope, no ing in there. So I know it's not going to be a gerund just because of those two things. It's the past tense. It's describing the English sheepdog. That is a participle. All right, let's try a different one. How about knowing he was the best? The Old English Sheepdog won a blue ribbon as proof. All right, again, don't need it in there, so that gives me a clue that I'm on the right track. But let's look at the first word, which looks like the verb. It ends in ing. So let's make sure I haven't created a gerund there instead of a participle. Knowing he was the best. Okay, can I still take the whole thing out? Absolutely, I can take the whole thing out, so I know right there I'm on good footing. And who was knowing that he was the best? Well, the Old English Sheepdog. So it's describing sheepdog. So I think I'm in good shape. That's a participial phrase. Now I'm looking for an infinitive or an infinitive phrase. Murphy, a St. Bernard, loves something stranded motorists and lost hikers. All right, well, Murphy over there, he can do... Old Murphy over here needs the word to. Okay, so we need an infinitive or an infinitive phrase. So, loves to what? Loves to lick. Right? That's what Murphy likes to do. It's a stranded motorist. Loves to help. Alright, that's to. And then the verb, you have an infinitive. It fits the sentence, and that is correct. Alright, so look for that to. And then let's take it for a gerund or a gerund phrase. And this one's a little bit harder, but I know I have to have an ing word, and I know it has to work as a noun. So something is hard work for at least a half a dozen shaggy dogs. What would be hard work for at least a half a dozen shaggy dogs? Well, let's say standing in line. Standing in line is hard work for at least a half a dozen shaggy dogs. I have to have it in the sentence, otherwise I can't just say is hard work for at least a half a dozen shaggy. That doesn't make any sense. It has to have a subject of the sentence. Here's the word that looks like a verb, and it's got ing. But in this case, this is what is hard work. So it is a noun and it is a gerund. How about another one? Let's say being groomed. Being groomed is hard work. So what's hard work? Being, there's your ing, groomed. This is my subject of my sentence now. I can't take it out. It's got the ing. I think I'm in pretty good shape. There is my gerund phrase. Now let's try adding all three, which should be a lot of fun, right? A little crazy. Let's look at the sentence. Pugalicious is the favorite at the dog show. Let's start with the easy one, the participial phrase, because I know that I can put in and take out of the sentence. I know that it has to have, it can have ing, it can have ed, but let's see what we can do here. So let's put it at the beginning, because a lot of times those will come at the beginning, come anywhere. Checking out the competition, comma, checking out the competition. So let's circle the first word. It's got an ing on it. I don't think I'm using this as a gerund because it is actually describing the dog, Pugalicious, not taking its place. So this is my participial phrase. I've got that one. All right, Pugalicious is the favorite at the dog show. All right, now the other two are a little bit harder to add, but they're not impossible to add. So let's go ahead and add the infinitive phrase. We know it has to have two in there, right? So checking out the competition, Pugalicious, and let's add a phrase in here, a clause into this. So we're going to put a comma there and insert who really wants to eat dinner, comma. Now I can take the whole thing out. I can take that whole phrase out, but if I just took to eat out, I mean, it would be okay, but that's not what he wants to do. You have to know what he wants to do. So to eat is what he wants, so this is an infinitive. And then we have the gerund phrase. We'll put that one at the end. Favorite at the dog show. Let's take that period out. Where grunting. Have you been around pugs? They grunt a lot and they snuffle and sniffle. Is not allowed. Okay, so I've got grunting. I got an ing. What is not allowed? Grunting. So this I know is working as a noun, and it is a gerund. So checking out the competition, Pugalicious, who really wants to eat dinner, and there's the bell, is the favorite at the dog show where grunting is not allowed. So I was able to put all three of them in there with a little bit of effort. You can do it. On this quiz, you'll have to identify the verbal in 4 different sentences and then complete 3 sentences using the verbals requested. So it's going to be a little bit harder. I will send you the email for the quiz, and good luck.